Today, I'm taking a look at a new AI virtual instrument inside of acestudio. Why? Well, because they reached out and asked if I would like to test it out. If you haven't heard of acestudio, then in short, it's an AI-driven workstation that affirms it can generate studio-quality performances by inputting MIDI and, if necessary, lyrical information. It started as a vocal-only generator, but they are branching out into other instruments, with the Violin being their first effort. Now, aside from mentioning to you that this instrument is still in its beta stage, and that components like expression control and more deeper level editing is still under development, this is all Ace asked of me. To be clear, while they did provide me with an artist license, this is not a paid endorsement, and I'm free to review this product in the same way that I would anything else. While the features I just mentioned are on schedule for a delivery date coming most likely in July of 2025, acestudio promises that their AI Violin will deliver human-level, out-of-the-box performance with just a MIDI input. Their goal is to allow you to focus more on your creative vision and less on technical tweaking. And as someone who has always held a sense of dread when I need to mess around with the editing of a contact instrument just to get it to do half of what I actually want, I really hope that Ace can hit this target. Also, speaking of contact, Ace runs entirely on the cloud, so you don't need to download hundreds of gigabytes of sample libraries in order to get it to work. In this video, I'm going to run the AI Violin through a spectrum of tests, as well as put it up against some more traditional methods of creating strings to expose the pros and cons of Ace's offering. So let's get started. Okay, so in this example, let's just take a look at the raw sound of the Ace AI Violin compared to what you would find stock inside of Logic, as well as a popular contact library, Native Instruments' own Stradivari sampling. So in order to do this, I sourced some public domain listening material, Bach's Violin Partita number 3. And this is what it sounds like performed by a human. Sounds beautiful. Well, that's all well and good, but how does some MIDI stand up to that nice performance? So right here, I have the MIDI translation of what you just heard, and let's see how Logic's own Studio Strings does with this. I mean, it's okay. It's, you know, kind of cheesy sounding. To be fair, this is straight MIDI we're talking about. No deep level CC automation, no deep level editing is going on here. But still, it sounds like some kind of bad made for TV 80s drama or something like that. So now below it, I have the Cremora Quartet Ensemble by Native Instruments. And this is a contact library. And inside of it, you get a cello, a viola, and 2 different violins. So I'm just going to solo one of the violins. And this is the Stradivarius sampling. So let's hear that. That does sound better, and I know with some editing I could really clean that up. However, it would take me like a half an hour or maybe an hour in total to do the whole piece. I'm not a pro when it comes to editing contact instruments. In fact, I hate it. So if the Ace can handle this straight MIDI better than these 2 examples, then that's an accomplishment in its own right, in my judgment. So let's see how it does. All right, so when you open acestudio, you're met with some familiar stuff like an arrangement window. You can make an audio track. However, in this left lane over here, here's all the different AI singers that they have available. However, that's not what we're focusing on today. Instead, we click on this beta window here, and we're met with our violins. There's 3 different models to choose from as of now. So I'm gonna make a new track just by clicking on this addition sign, and I'm going to set it as an AI instrument track. And it starts me off with a single violin. However, I can drag and drop in additional violins to play in unison. However, for this test, that would not be fair. So I'm just going to drag and drop in my MIDI file. And it's asking me if I want to apply the tempo and signature from the imported data. And yes, I do. So that adjusted it to 150 BPM. And let's see how it sounds. Okay, compared to Contact and to the Logic Studio strings, I think that sounds a lot better right out of the gate. There's no editing involved in what you just heard. It's just straight MIDI data. And that sounds a lot more lifelike, a lot more like the human performance than the other two examples. Now, like I mentioned, I could get close to this with the Contact example, but that would require, like I said, about an hour of editing. So this is impressive. Let me just get rid of my other tracks. Now, you may have noticed a lag at the beginning. That's because it's loading the AI model. And one of the things about acestudio is that you always have to be connected to the internet in order to use it. That is one of the trade-offs that you have to deal with in order to use these models and not download hundreds of gigabytes of data onto your computer. Depending on the scenario I found myself in, this could lead me to a situation where I would have to wait to use acestudio on my project, like if I were traveling or if I just didn't have an internet connection for some reason. Regardless, these are great results for straight MIDI. And as you'll notice down here, it says expression controls coming soon. As of right now, you're left with what many people will recognize as a piano roll editor, where you can lengthen notes, shorten them, move them, as well as move them up and down the scale. And there's also a note brush where you can add additional notes. But that's pretty much it for now. The additional expression controls, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, are expected to show up in July 2025. So if you're watching this video later on, then they could already be there. Now, like I mentioned, there's more models that you can add. So we have two vintage violins on top of this one, which is credited to the performer. So let's just drop them both in. And depending on which one I have selected, I can adjust the volume from here in this main window. And if I go to effects, then I can EQ them. There's a couple of different reverbs that you can choose from, as well as a compressor and de-essing. There is also an acestudio bridge that you can connect to a more fully featured DAW like Logic or Pro Tools, etc., which I will be covering later on. So let's see how these three violins sound together. Okay, there's some phasiness going on there. I think it's because the offset is set too low. This controls these slight differences between the performance. So let's raise this up a little bit. Let's go to 30%, see what happens. And then the spread as well. This controls the width. And then let's leave our first violin as the main instrument. And then I'll take the others down by, I'd say -6 each. That's better, but it's too wide now. Okay, so I've been messing with this for just a few minutes. I think I've found myself in a place where I would be comfortable exporting these as audio files into my main DAW. While I did pick up on a couple little things that I would have liked to change about the performance, it's hard to argue with the results that you get with no deeper level editing. And since those features are on the horizon, it makes it difficult to criticize them for it. All right, let's move on to the next test. Real quick, this is just a reminder to like the video if you do, and to subscribe to Como Music Creation. That helps more than anything else, but donations are always appreciated so that I can continue to make these videos. Link in the description. Thank you very much. All right, so in this example, I have some strings in this song that I want to replace, because right now I'm using the less than stellar Logic strings. So here they are. You know, it's just pretty simple, what we would call football music. However, in context, it sounds a lot better.
You believe you're free. You believe you're free.
So yeah, the song is coming along nicely, but again, the strings just, they're just whatever. So, since acestudio isn't exactly a fully outfitted DAW, they have made this bridge plugin. So I'm gonna replace my Virtual Instrument Studio strings with the Ace bridge. And now I will open acestudio, and I'll do my best to position both of these in the same display. All right, so inside of Logic, I just press connect to acestudio, and I'm going to record into it. So inside of Ace, I'm just going to remove these tracks. I'm going to add an instrument track, and it pulls up my violin. And now back in Logic, all I should have to do is press play. And for now, we're going to hear a piano in place of the strings. I think this piano is coming from inside of the bridge plugin itself. All right, cool. So as you can see over in Ace, we have the MIDI data transferred over. So now back in Logic, I can actually just go ahead and mute the original MIDI. It doesn't really matter. I just want to show you for certain that we'll be hearing things coming from acestudio. And now I click on AI Vocal inside of the bridge plugin. I assume that once they move the violin out of its beta stage, there'll be an option to have violin instead of the vocal, because right now it's a little bit confusing because it's not a vocal, it's a violin.
You believe you're free.
Cool. Let's focus in on acestudio now. Let's just see how this sounds by itself. Well, that is a lot better than the Logic strings. I'm going to add a different violin, and I'm actually going to remove the first one because I think these all have a different timbre, but we'll see. Yeah, and then let's try the other one as well. That one's a little bit more tremolo-ish. I like that. So I'm going to combine that with the first one. And I heard some reverb going on. I'm going to dry it out though. And I might take one of them down like 4 decibels. I don't know. We'll see. There's kind of a note that sticks out there, but I can't really do much about it right now. That's okay. But as far as the offset and the spread goes, it's fine. I don't want it to be too wide, and I want them to play kind of tightly, but not like super tight. So it's good where it is. So now what I can do, I mean, I could just go back to Logic and have this play along with my production while I'm working on it, because inside of Logic, I can apply whatever effect I want to these violins. Like I have this chorus on. I'm not sure if it'll be appropriate now, but it was for the other ones. I actually kind of still like it. And then I had an EQ, just blending it into the track a little bit better. Let's see how this is now. wonder if I can offset that note a little bit so that it doesn't stick out so much. That actually seemed to help. It's not like this like overbearing, it's not a wolf note, but it's just overbearing. Let me just remove my effects for now. It might require a little bit of de-essing, but overall, that's a pretty great string sound, I must admit. As far as the stability of the Ace Bridge plugin itself, I have no complaints. It's working pretty seamlessly. So now what I would do is I could go back to Ace Studio and I can export this as an audio file and put it back into my project, or I could wait until I'm ready to mix this song and just leave it in Ace Studio for now while I produce the rest of the track, because you never know, I might make a few little adjustments on the notes. But I'm actually going to export it just as a test. Let's see. Okay, now I'm going to go to File, Export Audio. I'll do a 32-bit 48K wave. My project that I'm working on in Logic is 96K, but it's not the end of the world. A lot of sample libraries are recorded at 48K, and then you upsample them to 96 regardless. All right, now I'll go back to Logic, just dump it in, and I'm just gonna move my effects over, and let's see how this sounds.
You believe you're free.
So since I can't really do a lot of expression control or dynamics control right now, I just squashed it with a compressor, but it fits in pretty well. Yeah, there's so much potential here. Once it's out of beta stage and these tools are available to me, I can really see this replacing a lot of my current string options. Okay, let's try something different and see how that goes. Okay, in this next example, I have a song of mine with some real strings in it, and here are those. Now, those are, of course, heavily affected, so here's some context. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of sliding or glissando going on in the string parts, especially at the very end. Now you may have noticed that there's also some background vocals in there that have a lot of that sliding effect as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of them and I'm going to import it into Ace. I don't have the bridge running. I'm just going to drag and drop it. And let's go to the end of the song. Okay, so with this selected, I just click on vocal to MIDI and lyrics, and the lyrics will just be Oz. But if I click on that and I include use the pitch line from the original vocal, then it will follow my pitch changes and it'll follow my slides as well. So I'll hit convert, and now it converted that to MIDI. And as you can see, it's showing the minute and the more broad or sliding pitch changes. And the cool thing about this is, suppose I wanted to add some female vocals along with my voice, then I can use Ace Studio for that. So I'll just double click on this and I'm going to turn on the choir mode, and I got one female and then I'm going to add another one. Let's get her in there. And one more. And I'll spread them out a little bit more. And let's see how this sounds. And it actually sounds pretty good, but that's not what today's video is about. Today's about the violin. So if I add an instrument track and I drag and drop this MIDI down, you'll see it's not really catching on because it doesn't have any of the expression controls available. So as of now, I can't do any kind of glissando effect on the violin, but as I understand it, that is coming with the rest of the tools. And something else that seems like it could be really cool down the road is the ability to like hum a violin part or really any kind of part, and then use acestudio to convert that into really anything you want once they get a larger library of instruments going. Just as of right now, there's a lot of room to grow in that aspect. So ultimately, what I see here is a really cool AI tool fundamentally built on a strong backbone of vocal and lyric generation that is now ambitiously exploring its potential to branch out into other uses and instrument groups. With the violin being their first effort, it definitely sounds great in its beta form, but I really look forward to being able to apply the same degree of authentic expression to it that we can currently do with the vocals. Glissando is especially something that's drenched all over different styles of modern music, so I really hope that those controls are implemented well. While I'm at it, something that would be really cool to see in the future would be an Ace plugin, similar to how Melodyne inserts itself into your project. I gotta applaud the Ace Bridge for its stability, at least in my tests, but a plugin that I could record directly into, like Melodyne, and create and edit my AI-generated vocals there would make life a little easier. This isn't really a criticism, but rather something on my wish list, because I really do see a lot of potential in this product. As far as I can see, it looks like the violin will be a great addition to a growing suite of tools. If you would like to check out acestudio for yourself, then there's a link in my description. If my videos help or entertain you, then please remember to like them and subscribe to Como Music Creation. Of course, donations really help the channel keep going, so there's a link for that in the description, as well as some Xtuga checkout codes and other links that may earn me a few pennies. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.